This is Unit 5, Lesson 8, Exponential Situations as Functions. We are going to do problem 8.2. 8.2 says, Claire noticed mold on the last slice of bread in a plastic bag. The area covered by the mold was about 1 square millimeter. She left the bread alone to see how the mold would grow. The next day, the area covered by the mold had doubled, and it doubled again the day after that. So we have got, on day 0, when Claire noticed it, is 1 square millimeter. And it doubles every day. So our growth factor equals 2. Because it doubles every day. This is our starting value. Okay, so number 1 is asking us, if the doubling pattern continues, how many square millimeters will the mold cover 4 days after she knows the mold? Show our reasoning. Okay, so if we start at 1, and we are going to double that 4 times, that is going to be 2 to the 4th. Because 1 times 2, we can get rid of the 1, because 1 times anything is itself. So we can ignore the 1. So this is going to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. This is going to equal 16 square millimeters. So another shortcut you can use when you're writing all these out is you have 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 16. And you can do this because multiplication is commutative. So, or you could do 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. Okay, so number 2 asks us to represent the relationship between area in square millimeters covered by the mold and the number of days since the mold was spotted using part A wants us to use a table. So we have D, days, and area. Let's do day 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I am off screen. Let me move this up. Okay, so at day 0, that's going to be our starting value, which if I move this down again, our starting value, day 0, is 1 square millimeter. Do 1, and if it doubles every day, our growth factor, we'll multiply that by 2. So on day 1, we've got 2 square millimeters. On day 2, we have 4 square millimeters. Day 3, we have 8 square millimeters. Day 4, we already know because we did it up here. We have 16 square millimeters. And on day 5, we have 32 square millimeters. Part B is asking us to represent it through an equation. So our exponential equations are in the form of y equals a times b to the x. Let's start by figuring out what our a value is. A is going to be our starting value. which we know on day 0 she measured at 1 square millimeter. B is our growth factor, and because it doubles every day, that will be 2. So our equation will be y equals 1 times 2 to the x, or we can drop the 1, it can just be y equals 2 to the x power. Okay. C is asking us to make a graph. So we've already got a table of values here, and it's going from 1 all the way to 32. So let's see here. Let's count this by 4s. Let's just do 2s actually. We'll do 2, 4, 6. Oops, 18. And we only did 0 through 5. Okay, so at day 0 we have 1. Day 1 we have 2. Day 2 we have 4. Day 3 we have 8. Day 4 we have 16. Day 5 we have 32. And that gives us our exponential slope, where we start out kind of close together, not rising very fast, and then we're making big leaps. Okay, so number 3 is asking us, is the relationship between the area covered by mold and the number of days a function? So we're going to write this in the form of blank is a function of blank, and if not, we will explain why. So this is a function. The area covered by mold is a function of the number of days that have passed. At any given time since mold was spotted, there is a certain area of the bread that is covered in mold. So like if we look back here at our table, if I say what day only had 1 square millimeter of mold, if I say how much mold was on day 1, it's just 2 square millimeters of mold. If I say day 3 was just how much mold was on day 3, we have just 8 square millimeters mold. There's not going to be 2 options. So the number of days that have passed are a function of the area covered by mold to a certain point. For example, let's say that on day 10, the entire bit of mold, the entire piece of bread was covered in mold. Well, on day 11, it's still going to be the entire piece of entire piece of bread covered in mold. Day 12 is going to be the same story. Once the bread is completely covered, we can't cover it more. So at this point, we would have to figure out what our domain would be. And I don't know how big a piece of bread is, but day 5 might be it. Okay, so after you have finished copying down these notes, go ahead and move on to the next video where we go over 8.3.